Hi, David Sweeney, Dublin 2 Chiropractic. So this video will be my mobility routine. Took 1 hour and 15 minutes and it's in a time lapse. So enjoy and let me know what you think. Right, so hopefully you enjoyed the video there and it gives you some good insights into what kind of needs to be done to improve your flexibility. So I worked for about 1 hour and 15 minutes there today, and to be honest it was quite painful. It was actually very difficult today. I felt really stiff. I've been running a bit more regularly now because obviously the lockdown, so I'm kind of feeling the effects from that. I did have an episode of Better Call Saul on, which was class. So if you haven't seen it yet, get into it. Now's the time. So during this lockdown, definitely trying to get the nutrition better, keep exercising, get that mobility working as well. Normally I actually spend about an hour and a half on that, so I was surprised today I got finished a little bit more quickly. And what I'm trying to do there is basically get my flexibility more optimal. Now I have a history of very stiff hips and that affects my lower back, and in practice when I'm checking my new patients I have to check their whole spine, then the hip, then the ankle and the knee as well, because if there's problems, let's say in the hip, that mechanically if that's not working properly, the lower back is going to need to compensate for it, and that's going to cause too much movement going into the lower back, and that's what's going to cause lots of friction and compression and damage. And if you didn't know this, the skeletal system is damaged by compensation. So if you've got a really stiff joint up, it's the joints above it or below it that are going to kind of take up all the work of the joint that isn't moving, and they're going to get ground down with all the extra pressure they're dealing with. That's what's going to lead to wear and tear in the body. So this is why mobility is so important. If we can find areas of the body that aren't working really well, like the hip, let's say, they need to be addressed for your system to operate normally. So what's a mobility routine like that for? Well, think about soccer players, Gaelic players, right? Runners, they're all going to put lots of compression and stress on that hip joint, and those huge muscles around it are going to stiffen up. And if you've played soccer before in the past, and if you were anything like me, you grew up in the 80s and 90s playing soccer or Gaelic, possibly on concrete a lot of the time, right? And that created a lot of impact, and you never ever stretched. I never stretched. So when I started to develop lots of hip pain and problems in that hip and the lower back started to get quite painful as well, I realized it was time to address the issues. And so I've kind of come up with a whole routine to work through that. And that was about 3 years ago when the hip problem really came to a head, and oh my god, it just got so painful, and it actually started to lock in place because the labrum was damaged. So I would get a locking hip and it would freeze up and get stuck. So it was a kind of difficult time. It was very difficult to get out of that rut, because I remember needing to do that mobility routine 3 times, 4 times, 5 times per week, and it would actually take 3 hours, right? Unbelievably, it used to take me 3 hours to get through all that work. Now I'm much more efficient. I know exactly where I need to target and what's going to be very impactful for me, so I can get it done in about an hour and a half, and it seemed to be a bit quicker today, which was great. So if you've any questions about what you need to do or where to start, just pop them in the comments below, and I should be sure to respond. But for most people, if you've got really tight hips, you're going to know, because it's going to be hard to get in and out of a car. I think might be the best way to think about it. You just find it difficult to get out of those low positions. You're going to be terrible at a squat. You might even have hurt your lower back doing a squat in the past. Or you even bending down to pick something up off the floor, you might have some difficulty with it. But ultimately, for the new patients, they need to check their hip with something with a test called the FADIR or FADIR, and we also check internal and external rotation and how much flexion is available on that hip. So if you're interested, the hip should have about 45 degrees or more, a bit more, maybe 60 degrees of external hip rotation, and about 35 degrees of internal hip rotation, and then the flexion can come up way beyond that, way past even 60 degrees. Okay, so any questions, let me know in the comments, and have a great day. Cheers.